We'll probably say that.
Stop, please. No.
So I am live right now, and my kids are making me promise to not say that they're homesick today. So they're homesick today, but I won't go into any more detail than that on pain of embarrassing them. So anyway, it's Wednesday around lunchtime, and I've been doing a little bit of painting this morning, and this is my new routine to sign on live on Wednesdays and Fridays to let you watch over my shoulder with whatever I'm working on. So this week I'm working on Ewoks and Ents, two completely different fandoms, but that's the way my brain works. I do bounce back and forth between sci-fi and fantasy when I'm painting and drawing. So anyway, I've been working on Ewoks all morning. I'll show a sneak peek of that in my stories afterwards, but for now, I was halfway through some pen and ink work yesterday, warming up because I'd like to do some illustrations in pen and ink. It's nice to mix up the medium that I work with, just to kind of take a new look at things. And I've got a few upcycled paintings I want to start. So all these studies and paintings are part of the process of getting ready to work on those finished ones. So anyway, that's what I'm going to work on now for a little bit. So I'm working some pen and ink, and let me just move my face out of the way. There we go. Perfect. I think this is working. And I'm just going to put something over my laptop so I don't get any ink on it. Let's see if that works. There we go. That's safe. All right. So if you've been following on my other account, the Ent Wives Club, you'll know that I'm collecting and enjoying searching for the Ent Wives, because I've got some art that I'm doing inspired by Ents and Ent Wives. And in the process of that, I realized I was kind of finding stories and wanting to be able to picture where they were from, and there are no maps. There are no maps of the Ent Wives and where they are from. So, and I just decided to make some. So it looks kind of crazy here, but the reason I've done this is because I want to be able to make notes of where the sightings were, and to be able to picture the landscapes and where they're going to be fitting in. So I've painted the Shire a couple times through, because Sam's cousin spotted an Ent up in the north where he went hunting. So I've done a couple of versions of that, and I think I've done all my versions of the Shire. I've done 3. So it's I'm working with very old, worn out pens and nibs, and they're rusty and they're gross, and I probably should get new ones, but I kind of like the effect. So that's what I'm working with, and I'm working with these Ferris wheel press inks, which I picked up before the holidays, and I love them. I'm giving a little bit of a stir just to show you, but they've got this beautiful sheen to them. Like this one's got a bit of gold in it, and this one is a blue, but it's got a bit of a warm coppery tone in it. So as you use the inks, it has a little bit of a sheen to the finished. You probably won't be able to see it on this, but the heavier ink has some sparkle in it, which it's super subtle, but it gives it that kind of just a little bit of just a bit of interest, and it's a bit of fun to work with. So that's the materials I'm working with. So I've got I'm just gonna put these aside, actually, because I feel like I can't. Oh no, maybe I will. I'll grab one. So this is the Shire. Put that up there, and then we've got so we know that Treebeard's from Fangorn, and the Ent Wives, they lived before they turned into the Brownlands. That's the location they lived in. They would travel, the Ents would travel across to visit the Ent Wives over on this side. So I really wanted to have a map of that, and no one else has them. So so as I'm working, these are the more just penciled in and very lightly drawn ones, which I want to be thinking of and doing some established gardens, like some of the ancient gardens that you see in South America, where you can see from above where they've terraced the earth and things. So I'm hoping to do something like that with the Ent Wives gardens. So I've got a few set aside for that, which I'm going to put over there so they're out of my way. And yesterday I was finishing up on this kind of close-up of the mountains and Fangorn and the Brownlands, and
just some details like Treebeard's Hill and stuff. So yeah, so it's, I might just do a little bit of, that's another one that's the same, so I'm going to put that over on the side so I don't muck those up. But I am going to, what I might just do is choose one, and I just need to warm up just a tiny little bit with, no I don't, yes I do, no, yes, no, now you know what I'm doing with these. This is the map book that I've been using by Karen Wynne Fonstadt, and she's done some amazing, super detailed maps of the battles, the journeys, and all that of Middle Earth. So this is what I'm using to collect the information to find out whereabouts the garden should be and where the Ents were and different things. So, and I kind of need to concentrate to be able to copy and do that sort of stuff, and I feel like I don't want to do that right now. So I'm going to switch right over to just drawing with the pen and ink, because that was my plan for today. So I'm just going to grab my, grab the book here. So I was working on, this is my journal. Oops, I don't want to move the cord here. Sorry, I did have a plan, but sometimes when you go to do something, you realize, oh, I'm not really sure that's the best thing to do. So let me find the next page. So I've been doing a lot of studies, some notes on Treebeard and what he should look like. And here we go. Coming up to a clean page. There we are. And I'm going to increase a little bit, but I am going to work in the inks. So let's see. We've got, let's work in green. I kind of feel like green today. So this is, I'm not sure if this is the technical way that you're supposed to shake up the ink. This is how I do it. And I've got some reference from real trees that I've been collecting, trees that are kind of commonly known for being looking a lot like people. Just grabbing my water from behind me, or working behind me on something else. So I am going to, I'll work in the ink first, and then I'm going to use the brush for some broader parts. So I don't trust my ability to not spill, so I am going to hold on to this ink. So yeah, so anyway, so the nice thing about working with different mediums is it just forces you to think a little differently about what you're drawing and painting. So so this tree that I'm working from, she's called the Witch Tree. I think she's in Portugal. I just grabbed a few of my favorites, and I don't remember where all these trees are from. But the reason I like her is, well, she's called the Witch Tree because her figure kind of reminds you a little bit of a woman. Because she's got some curvy hips. This green ink is a delight to work with. It's just a beautiful dark, almost black color. So she looks like she's running or walking or across the landscape, and her leaves and stuff grow out of the ends of her branches, but because of her shape, her main shape there, she's quite a popular tree. Very well photographed if you were to look her up on Instagram or wherever. Yeah, so I think she's from Portugal. So I quite like her. So I'm just, I know this stylus, I think that's what it's called, is super old. The end's mucked up because I think I used it to chisel something out of something or other. And I haven't used my pen and ink stuff for years, like not since college really. But I kept it. It's been tucked away. I thought, oh, I'll use this one day. And I went through and I had to throw away a bunch of the nibs because I'm like, they're just not right. Like they don't let the ink kind of flow very nicely. So this drawing style, I'm not totally adhering to it, but this is this style is one that we use in uni, where you just you don't really take your pen off the paper. It's called you just let your pen travel around, and or your paintbrush travel around, and you just don't think about it too much. You just keep it moving and erratic, and you get kind of, it's more about capturing the movement than about capturing exactly how something looks, which I'm really enjoying, because this makes me stop and think about how the leaves are growing on the branches, where the gaps are, where the interesting bits are, and then it frees you up from having to make it look exactly perfect, because you're just concentrating on movement and where it all is. Now, I do want to use my brush with this ink too, because it's got some lovely tones to it, so I'm not sure how long this is going to need to dry before I do that, but I'm just going to do it anyway, because I don't really mind when the ink bleeds a little bit. Which will be the challenge, deciding which bits I allow to bleed and go over, and which bits I want to keep, because I like the line work. So, you know the Ents probably well from Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. And we see Treebeard, and we get to see all the Ents march on Isengard, and that's fantastic. And we get to see the Entmoot and all the adorable old men Ents. And in the extended version, Treebeard talks a bit about the Entwives and asks if they'd ever seen them. And Merry and Pippin they'd not ever seen, I've just given her a very enormous bum. Oh well, let's just bring the trunk out a bit further. I don't really want to feature that so much. Anyway, he asks Merry and Pippin, and they had not seen any, and he said, oh, it's a shame, I think they would have liked the Shire. Now, it's kind of obvious, but it just didn't really dawn on me that Frodo and Sam never met Treebeard, and which, you know, is kind of, it's like, oh, I think they would have liked meeting Treebeard. I think Treebeard would have liked them too, but had Treebeard asked Sam that question, Sam would have had a story to tell him, which is right in I think the second or third chapter of the Lord of the Rings, in the Fellowship of the Ring. So Sam is at the bar, at the pub, Green Dragon, chatting away, and they're talking about strange happenings happening in the Shire. Like, they're starting to notice people traveling through the Shire that shouldn't be there, and all that. But amongst that, Sam mentions that his cousin had seen something that looked like a walking tree in the northern part of the Shire, where he goes hunting. And it's kind of debatable between all these guys. These guys are all drinking, and they kind of discredit the story and all that. But Sam believes it and is interested in it, but it makes me think, oh, I wonder what Treebeard would have thought had he heard that story. Because in the books, towards the end of the books, when Aragorn is talking with Treebeard, and he says, oh, you're free, you know, the lands are safer, like there's a passage that's been cleared, you can go, and you're welcome to go and look for the Entwives, you know, anywhere. And Treebeard just is like, oh, there's too many men between here and where they could have gone. Like, they basically, I think he was kind of content to, not content, but I don't know if he'd given up hope or believed that they were completely gone. But he didn't want to go exploring more. But I wonder, had he talked to Sam and heard about a recent sighting of an Ent or an Entwife, if he would have changed his mind, if he actually would have gone and traveled to the Shire to see if perhaps one of the Entwives was there. Okay, I think that's enough with the ink with the pen. I'm just going to quickly dry that off. anyone is an expert with pens and knows how I should do this better than this, let me know. I am, this is not big enough. I need a bigger brush. Just a second. I think this one will be all right. I probably should not have wet that first. So I'm really curious about this ink and how it's gonna work in a brush. Oh, it's very thick. Oh, I can still see underneath. That's lovely. Okay. I'm gonna leave some whites, but I wanted to get some of that color so you could see this beautiful ink, how it so I am just gonna use the paint that's on the brush. I'm not gonna add more. Oh, I am gonna add a little tiny bit more because I want to kind of block. I want to help draw the eye through some of these detail bits because it's not all. Let's see what happens if I add a little bit of water to it. Oh, it makes it's even more so. There's some areas where I want to draw your eye a little bit across it. It's just good experimenting with this. Maybe it's not the best thing, maybe it is, but I thought I've never done this before. I'm gonna give it a go. Now this ink is not bleeding the way my watercolors do, so I've got to treat this a little differently. I'm used to the ink kind of bleeding and traveling a little bit more on the paper, so this is kind of interesting. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Like once it's set down, it's not moving anywhere. So I kind of can rely on my ink strokes of the marks of the ink to actually stay when I'm doing this with the watercolor afterward, or the watered down ink. So that's kind of cool. But it's a different way of painting for me because usually I rely a bit on the watercolor to bleed and do some of the work for me, so I'm having to be extra deliberate about my brush strokes. Well, I'm quite liking the witch tree here. She looks like she's going for a walk across the landscape. Just wipe the ink off of my brush. And again, it's not bleeding, so it's very permanent, which I do like, but it's I'd have to think about that as I'm painting to be a bit more careful. Well, that's the first one. So what I might do, I'm gonna draw another one, but then I'll switch and I'll use the watercolor to color it in, because then I can have a little bit more control. Now I've just realized that the whole thing here is tipped because I bumped it. Sorry. There we are. That's a bit better. Okay. It's just about dry. So while it's just about drying, I'm just going to grab another bit of reference, a sneak peek at what I'm working on, the other table. Okay, so we have the witch tree. I quite like this guy too. I think he's pretty cool. Just walking along the landscape. We have this one with the kind of knobby, the split trunk that kind of looks like he's walking as well. It's kind of nice. This guy's cool, kind of climbing up a rock. And this one's kind of fun too. So this is another famous tree that as the sand washed away the shore, it was left attached and growing out of the beach. It's not there anymore. It's finally washed away, but it was a pretty cool tree. And then this one from Cannock Chase. It's a famous tree, the Walking Man tree. Yeah, so let me grab, let me see, I think this is probably going to be dry enough if I just move it carefully. Oh, it's not quite dry, hold on. There we go, okay. I'm just going to flip the page and gently rest it against the other one over here. Well, I think let's go for the beach one because I think that'd be fun. And how about, just trying to think if I want to use the same. I like this green ink. Let's keep using this green ink. And I'm going to keep holding it because I feel like I'm going to spill it if I'm not careful. So this little guy is really cute because he's got a lot going on, a lot of movement with him, but he's not a really huge tree. Yeah, so there may have been, Sam's account of it was that his cousin went hunting and had spotted what looked like a tree walking across the landscape, and it must have been, I don't know, he said it was about 14 feet high or something, and they said it, actually I don't know how high it was, but he said it like it took seven yards to a step, which is kind of incredible. So, and everyone kind of claimed that he must have been drunk. He said, what was it? His cousin must have seen it long enough to say that it was an elm tree that he thought it was, and it was there's no. Sam was like, well, there's no elm trees on the moors up there. Like, how could he make that up? So, so I like the idea of maybe there was an ent up that way. Because you think, oh well, why wouldn't they just go back towards to Fangorn and find their ents, like if it was an ent wife. But then if you think about it, like they didn't have Wi-Fi in Middle Earth. They didn't have a way of communicating with each other from like long distances. The ents, like they just if you fled from somewhere and you thought it was overrun or whatever, like you might just never go back for fear that it was still under siege or not safe. So there's a chance there could be an ent somewhere up in the Shire, or an ent wife. So let's see this guy here. So he's got a little trunk. He's got a very dainty leg here with a bit of a knee, which is really adorable. And his little root-like feet are going right into the ground. So if you're just joining the chat now, this is my new weekly routine to just set aside some time for drawings and paintings and doing the studies that I do before I paint a finished piece. So some of you have been following along and know that I've been working on some art inspired by the Entwives, and I think you're probably getting the impression that I have taken on the whole Ent attitude, and I've not been hasty with this project, so I'm working on it whenever I can, but painting is my part-time job. Being a mum is my full-time job, so sometimes I don't get as much time to paint as others, and some projects take me longer than others. So this is one of those ones that I've been really looking forward to working on. And I've been collecting pieces for a while. I've been getting ideas, and so I am not being hasty as I'm working on the studies, and because I'd like to do justice to the idea of illustrating the lost Entwives and the Ents in their early years. So I don't really want to rush that, and yeah, but that's what I'm doing. It's nice to set aside a little bit of time. Life's kind of busy. Kids are at school, so I don't always get time to paint. This is a different kind of tree, so it's got different kind of leaves. Yeah, so I don't always have time to paint. But setting aside time to do a little bit of studying here and there gets me further along. So then when I do sit down to paint, I've already kind of worked out what I'm doing, where I'm going with it, and the ideas that worked, didn't work, kind of get some of them out of my system. So when I go to sit to do the altered painting, I will have narrowed it down to whatever I think the best options are. And this is how I usually work with most of my projects, unless it's something that I am pretty confident with how it's going to look, or I have, if I've illustrated it before, I'm really familiar with the subject matter, I might be more confident and launch right into it. But usually that confidence comes from having practiced, and sometimes the practice on something like this actually makes the work on something else better, because I've kept painting and doing little bits and pieces. So another little secret is that I get quite intimidated when I'm really looking forward to doing something, like really looking forward to painting a certain idea, and so I will put it off, and I will do studies and sketches because I'm nervous to start. And so doing these studies and sketches is part of alleviating that and helping me get over those nerves and just starting, basically. So it is lunch hour here. I can hear some lunch noises going in the background. My kid's home today from school with colds. My husband works from home, so it's a busy house. Okay, so this one has become very line heavy and scratchy. I'm kind of feel like I'm not. I want to get back to the essence of the shape of this, so I'm going to grab the ink again, the brush. So we've got the beach here, this one here, there's some waves, and I want to give a little bit of motion where his the sand is. All right. The thing about working with ink is it's so permanent. You can't undo it if you've got carried away with it. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the paintbrush to bring back some darks and highlights to help guide your eye through the mess of stuff that I've created. So this is also not the best watercolor brush. This is one I used for this is one that I used recently for acrylic, and probably a little bit of something messy, so it's a bit frayed. I did not set myself up well for this. So when I'm doing this, I'm also not being restricted by my line work. I'm looking at my reference and using that as my guide. So sometimes I might put something completely in a different spot, kind of correcting what I've done. And the cool thing about this ink is that you can see the line work through the ink in places. I'm trying to leave whites in places just to enjoy the highlights. But not everywhere. I don't know if you've ever seen the beautiful Japanese illustrations drawn in ink on, is it rice paper? And beautiful parchment paper. It is extremely difficult to achieve that that effortless sort of look, like just, you know, doing a brush stroke and have it be like, you know, horses running along, and just with pen and with an ink and paintbrush, because it dries so quickly, and it's just difficult to get that effortless look. So it's a bit deceiving. You think, oh, it's just a little bit of this or that. It's actually very hard. So, which is why, like, we practice a lot. And experiment like this to see how it will handle, what it will do. Almost done this one. And I'm going to use the brush to do shadow. I was going to use the watercolor to bring in some color into this, but I feel like because the line work got away from me a bit and I've experimented with the ink for the rest of it, I won't use the watercolor for that. Well, I like the movement in that one. I feel like I've kind of captured something of it, even if it's even if some things like wiping my brush, maybe it wasn't the best choice. Okay, so there's that one. I'm just put the top back on. I'm doing that. So that's doing something like this kind of gives me an idea that when I want to add the Ents into my pictures, let me grab them when I'm working on. It's right beside me here. Grab one of the little ones. So I'm going to be adding them into this landscape, and I have multiple versions, like painted versions, printed versions, and but I'm just deciding where I want things to go. So doing a study like this where it's a lot of movement and walking and stuff helps me decide how I want to handle this. So I like the idea because I've got more than one of, and maybe one of the smaller ones or the rougher versions, taking this tree that looks like she's got her arm across her face and turning the whole body down, so it's kind of maybe talking to another one, or reaching for a young ent or something like that. So a little enting. That's what I'm thinking of for that one. So that one. Let me just check the time. I think that's probably, I've done 2 studies. That's probably enough for today, and yeah, that's probably good for now. So it's helping me along on my way with the new paintings, and I think I'll leave them there for now. And yeah, I'm gonna go back to painting some Ewoks. So thanks for joining in for a little bit, and I'm gonna try and sign on again on Friday around the same time to do a little bit more work. And yeah, so if you had any questions along the way, I'm sorry, while I was working I wasn't paying any attention to comments because I can't do both things at once, and it's just me doing this. So if you have any questions about the process or what I'm working on, feel free to drop me a note, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So actually, I'm just noticing there's some, I should really learn how to use this properly and get to the comments. Anyway, thanks for joining me for a little bit, and have a good rest of your day.